and today we're going to start our day by going to the world's smallest railway. The Romney, Hythe and Dymchurch Railway has been operating miniature trains in England since 1927. The trains are 1/3 the size of a full-size train. I caught the 9:50 a.m. train from Hythe. At first, this looked like a normal station, but as I got closer, I realized that I was even taller than the carriages. The ticket allows you to sit anywhere. I chose a carriage near the middle of the train.
It's hot and tiny.
The tiny trains run on narrow tracks. Some are steam locomotives, but the one I traveled in was a small diesel-powered train.
It's a little train, but you can open the doors and windows.
Lots of dials and switches had to be used to control the train. We were ready to depart. The driver checked behind to make sure everything was clear, and he then slowly started to pull away from the station.
We are officially moving.
We left Hythe and were on our way to the next station.
It's really fun. It's hot when you're waiting for it to move, but once it starts moving, there's a cool breeze coming in. It's quite fast.
In some places, the train went past the back of people's houses. In other places, we were out in the countryside looking at fields and farms.
Horses.
I even spotted a fun-looking play area called the Marsh Maze. I noticed that people seemed to be very happy to see our train. Every person we went past would wave at us.
It's a station. We are at Dymchurch Station.
Once everyone was on board, we set off again. At Romney Sands, we had to wait a while to let another train go past us. It was a steam locomotive called the Black Prince. This section of the railway was reopened in 1947 by the famous American comedians Laurel and Hardy. I placed a link to their film clip in my video description. It is quite funny to watch. I knew I was getting close to Dungeness when I saw the huge lighthouse there.
There are people watching from the lighthouse. There are people watching.
As we pulled slowly into the station, I saw our journey and had taken 1 hour and 10 minutes. That was really fun and relaxing ride through the English countryside. Now it was time to explore the Dungeness.
That's a lighthouse. We're going in there right now.
The old lighthouse opened in 1904. 3 million bricks were used to build it. The lighthouse is 46 meters tall, and the sign on the door made it clear that some parts might be a bit dangerous.
It says, any person entering these premises does so at their own risk. We have to climb 169 steps.
The winding steps were narrow and steep. On the first floor, I learned about its history. They stopped using the lighthouse in 1960. There were red and green lights on the next floor. A sign told me that these were used to guide the ships around the rocks on the coast. Above me, I could see the spiral staircase winding to the top of the lighthouse. You need to stay behind the railing as there is a long drop below. On the way up the stairs, I learned more about the history. The last flight of steps were even steeper. I reached the top, and there it was, the giant light. The lens weighs almost 3 tons and moves using a wind-up clock. I learned that the lighthouse keeper had to wind the clock every hour. He wouldn't get a very restful night having to climb those steep steps every hour. I climbed through the small hall to the outside of the lighthouse. It was very windy out there and surprisingly cold. I had to jog to warm up.
You have a great view of the English Channel from here.
Dungeness is a very flat area of land. Not many people live here. There's a good reason for this. Because next to the lighthouse is a huge power station.
So that is a nuclear power station.
After a few minutes outside, I was ready to climb back into the lighthouse to warm up a bit. I then had to carefully make my way back down the steps. My grandpa suggested we walk over to the new lighthouse and explore the beach there. The beach is made from tiny petals. In some places, I found plants that look like lettuces. There's a pathway too if you want to avoid getting stones in your shoes.
So right now, I'm going to the beach. It surprised me because instead of sand, there's rock.
It was a beautiful day, but the sea looked quite rough. I enjoyed myself mostly by throwing stones into the sea. By now, it was lunchtime. We drove to Great Stone and stopped off at a fish and chip shop. The fish and chips are fried freshly and then covered in vinegar and salt. They put a lot more on than I normally would. We then drove a little further down the road to the Little Stone Beach and found a nice place there to sit down and enjoy our lunch. The fish and chips smelled delicious.
The fish is very fluffy, and the potato chips are thick, and they have a little bit of vinegar. It's really good.
It was very windy on the beach. Lots of seagulls were flying overhead. I think they wanted to try my lunch too. With my tummy full, I went for a stroll down the beach. I kept looking out for interesting rocks and shells.
It's a squid bone. I don't know. Yeah, it's a squid bone.
I walked along the seawall back to our car. New Romney Station was just a short drive away, so we went there to take one final look at the Romney Heights and Dymchurch Railway. This is coal. They use this to power the steam train. Shortly after I arrived, the Black Prince steam train pulled into the station. A few minutes later, another steam locomotive called Samson was ready to depart. I watched it pull slowly away. I really enjoyed my visit to this miniature railway. This was the first time I had traveled in such a tiny train.
If you like this video, please subscribe down below.